Welcome to Trial Site News Weekly Roundup. Today we discuss an ivermectin study that revealed 100% of its 60 patients better in an average of just under 6 days. Then, the president of Dominican Republic's largest private health group discusses the success of ivermectin as a treatment for early-stage COVID-19, followed by a story about the National University Singapore, which launches large COVID-19 prophylaxis study targeting ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. And then finally, first phytopharmaceutical drug approved for clinical trials targeting COVID-19 in India. All of this starts now. Recently, Trial Site News reported on a study sponsored in Bangladesh by Upazila Health and Family Planning Officer's Office and First Affiliated Hospital Jiangtong University. The observational study was conducted from May 2nd to June 5th of this year. The principal investigators observed 181 patients who tested positive for COVID-19. The research team recently shared the results via preprint server from ResearchGate. The study team concluded that concerning the treatment outcome, adverse effect, and safety, the ivermectin and doxycycline combination was superior to the use of hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin therapy in the case of mild to moderate degree of COVID-19 patients. Now, although both treatment regimens were observed to be effective for this study, the ivermectin treatment was found to be superior. So let's take a deeper dive and look at this study. As I mentioned, it was sponsored by Upazila Health and Family Planning Officer's Office, Korea, Cox's Bazar, in collaboration with the First Affiliated Hospital Jiangtong University in China. Now, this study was conducted for just over a month from May to June of this year. The investigators, as I mentioned earlier, observed 181 patients who had tested positive for SARS-CoV-2 infection by RT-PCR, undertaken at Cox's Bazar Medical College. The participants were observed carefully for family history and any comorbidities that could disqualify them for this study. Now, as it turned out, 42 participants had comorbid conditions that could impact recovery time. 14 participants were unwilling to participate in this study, and 9 participants failed to participate for follow-up sample collection, so these were excluded. Following exclusion, 116 patients were included with mild to moderate degree of illness, with normal or near normal chest radiograph and oxygen saturation. More than 95% were included in this study. All the patients enrolled in the study were treated as an outpatient protocol. The study patients were divided into 2 groups, including Group A, which was ivermectin single dose and doxycycline 10 days. Which should be noted that this is very similar to Dr. Tariq Alam's successful hospital-approved protocol study at the Bangladesh Medical College. And then Group B regimen entailed hydroxychloroquine 400 milligrams first day, then 200 milligrams twice daily for 9 days, plus azithromycin 500 milligrams daily for 5 days. Now, additionally, the principal investigators and staff treated the patients with any fever, headache, cough, myalgia, and other complaints. The participants were advised for self-isolation, proper nutrition, hydration, and a sanitary environment. The team evaluated the patients every 2 days starting from the 5th day, asymptomatic patients, or the second, non-symptomatic day, from the first day of the drug intake by PCR study or nasopharyngeal and throat swab in each group. Regular contracts were maintained to find out the adverse or side effects of the therapy. So, what were the results? Well, much like what we saw from Dr. Ryder at Broward County in Florida, in the United States, and Dr. Tariq Alam Bangladesh Medical College, the results here were quite positive. Group A, the ivermectin group, experienced a 100% recovery rate, with a mean symptomatic recovery duration of 5.93 days, and a negative PCR was on 8.93 days. The Group B results, hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin, was 96.36%. with 6.99 days and 9.33 days, respectively. Now, 55.1% of the patients in Group A gained symptomatic recovery on the 5th day. A mild degree of adverse effects was noted by 31.67% of patients, lethargy in 14, nausea in 11, and occasional vertigo in 7. In the meantime, Group B experienced some degree of adverse effects as well. 23.21% experienced mild type of blurring of vision and headache, 39.2% increased lethargy and dizziness, 17.85% occasional palpitation, and 16.07% experienced nausea and vomiting. So, to wrap up the study, the Upazila Health and Family Planning Officer's Office and First Affiliated Hospital Zhangjiang University in China has come to the conclusion that in regards to treatment outcome, adverse effect, and safety, the ivermectin and doxycycline combination is in fact superior to hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin therapy in the case of mild to moderate degree of COVID-19 patients. And as mentioned earlier, while the Bangladesh and Chinese team found that both treatments were effective in this study, the ivermectin results were superior to hydroxychloroquine. So to recap then, this controlled observational study in Bangladesh produces some relatively compelling results. Patients tested positive for COVID-19 are taking a combination of ivermectin and doxycycline with a 100% success rate. On average, the mean symptomatic recovery, as I mentioned earlier, was 5.93 days, with a disease that can stretch for 2 to 3 weeks. We also saw, when we, Trial Site News, interviewed Dr. Jean-Jacques Reiter, MD of Broward County Health, who conducted an off-label county health-approved protocol, that when we reported the results back on June 9th, the team found that ivermectin was associated with lower mortality during treatment of COVID-19 patients in this carefully controlled off-label observational study. Now, interestingly, Dr. Reiter hasn't found too many eager peer review publications to publish the results, despite the fact that a major U.S. county health board approved the off-label use observational study, Broward County. And then we here at Trial Site News also interviewed Dr. Tariq Alam, who reported astounding results for the hospital-approved protocol at the Bangladesh Medical College. Now, Trial Site News agrees with the World Health Organization and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration that an important next step for acceptance of ivermectin as a treatment for COVID-19 would include results from randomized controlled trials, and a number of them have commenced. One of the at least 31 ivermectin clinical trials has been completed from the University of Baghdad. The principal investigator, Faik Glorial, is trying to get the study results published. The outcome is not yet clear. Meanwhile, Dr. Eli Schwartz, a prominent key opinion leader out of the renowned Sheba Medical Center, will also complete an ivermectin randomized controlled trial by September or October of this year. Dr. Schwartz, a physician and researcher, has been bullish on the prospect for the antiparasitic drug targeting the novel coronavirus. The University of Kentucky is also now recruiting for an ivermectin study, while the Johns Hopkins University ivermectin study, for whatever reason, appears to still not yet be recruiting. Now, this is all good news, but the complete lack of intellectual interest in the ivermectin movement, including reputable hospital protocol-approved, off-label, controlled observational studies, raises suspicions of a set point of view. That Trial Site News has spoken with several physicians around the world in combination with outcomes from these carefully run observational studies starts to make the team wonder if there isn't some institutional bias against this particular alternative approach. There appears to be a strange lack of any intellectual curiosity on the part of the establishment in the medical community. While intriguing movements such as ivermectin with growing data points of success are completely ignored, remdesivir is blindly embraced. Although the drug hasn't really demonstrated success anywhere else and shown only some positive results, they certainly aren't any better than the parent Avigan favipiravir results, which have led to approvals targeting COVID-19 in Russia, China, and India. Bizarre, given the U.S. government injected $138 million into favipiravir just 8 years ago for the exact scenario that is now unfolding, a global pandemic. However, the establishment pushes on with remdesivir to the point that no one seemed to mind when standard protocol was ignored, when just weeks before the clinical trial's conclusion of remdesivir, the primary endpoint was literally changed so that the study could still be relevant. The primary outcome measure established in the remdesivir protocol was chucked last minute to save the faith. That bold and seemingly brazen move raised red flags among most critical thinkers. It could be that that's just how much power is now concentrated in establishment circles. Perhaps then, the world of drug development involving large biopharmaceutical companies, major academic medical centers, and regulators has perhaps become too cozy with one another. So in conclusion to this story, consumers and professionals monitoring COVID-19 therapies should look carefully into any subtle or not-so-subtle institutional biases in favor of expensive, more complex treatments over basic economical treatments that can treat much of the world. Meanwhile, the Rescue Group, or Grupo Rescue, is a leading national private health network in the Caribbean nation of Dominican Republic. The Rescue Group operates 3 hospitals, including Punta Cana Medical Center, Bornegal Medical Center, and Canela Clinic, as well as affiliated referral hospitals, urgent care facilities, and an in-home services, in addition to 17 emergency hotel medical centers. Jose Redondo, the group's president, is renowned in Latin America for the incredible success of his Ivermectin protocol used at the Rescue Group hospitals. Now, Dr. Redondo took the time to speak with Trial Site News about the success of the Ivermectin treatment. They have treated 1,300 early-stage COVID-19 patients and have observed dramatic results. Now, as mentioned, Dr. Jose Redondo runs an organization that has grown to 3 hospitals and a collection of affiliated practices and clinics. With about 1,000 employees, they are perhaps the largest private health network in the Dominican Republic. This beautiful island nation of about 10.6 million is known more for stunning tropical resorts, fine rum, and cigars, not to mention dynamic and innovative healthcare solutions. But under Dr. Redondo's leadership, they have found a striking discovery, that the antiparasitic medication Ivermectin, with over 1 trillion doses given a year for fighting off parasites in primarily tropical developing nations, actually works. In fact, Dr. Redondo reported to Trial Site News the following data based on treating 1,300 COVID-19 patients. He said that 99% of them had been cured. The average duration of the full infection went from 21 days to 10 days. The drug starts inhibiting the virus within a couple days in humans. The only side effects have been mild heartburn and diarrhea. Here is a sample of the question and answer interview that went as follows. When asked, has the National Health Authorities approved of Ivermectin, he replied that no, they are following the World Health Organization and other funders' guidance. Question: have you been able to treat COVID-19 patients with Ivermectin? Dr. Redondo said that the hospitals have approved our protocol for use of an approved human antiparasitic drug off-label for the novel coronavirus. When asked about the Dominican Republic, which has over 32,000 cases of COVID-19 and 747 reported deaths, how come the authorities are not following Rescue Group's lead, he replied that a confluence of factors and forces, including the fact that A, they follow the World Health Organization, United States, and other guidance based on funding, and B, government health moves much slower than the private sector. So what is the benefit of treating people early with Ivermectin? Question: the results speak for themselves. Going from 21 days down to 10 days for average disease duration is incredible. Remember, the remdesivir numbers 14 to 11 days is hospitalization and severe cases. If you compare the results of Ivermectin and remdesivir, the latter really isn't to treat a majority of the people who have mild cases. After all, for remdesivir, it is for more progressed cases, involves an intravenous administration, etc. And then let's talk about the health, economic, and social benefit of cutting 10 days out of the sickness and reducing the amount of time a person is contagious with COVID-19. This has been a huge impact, a huge value to society. Look at what this pandemic has done to the global economy. Look at New York, the greatest city with per capita, perhaps the greatest doctors and health systems yet. Look at the amount of death and the impact it's had. It is horrific, a tragedy. For the full question and answer interview, we've provided a link in the description below to the article we published on this story. So, physicians and investigators interested in learning more, you can contact Dr. Jose Redondo directly at this email address here, which of course we will also include in the description below. For our next story on the Roundup, the National University of Singapore serves the island nation as a tertiary hospital, clinical training center, and research center for medical and dental faculties. With 1,160 beds serving more than 670,000 outpatients and 49,000 inpatients, the NUS is ranked first in Singapore and Asia Pacific and 11th in the world, according to the 2019 QA World University Rankings. Now, this prestigious research organization initiated a large randomized Phase 3 open-label prophylaxis trial among migrant workers at high risk of COVID-19. Now, this study is known as the DORM trial. Among the prophylaxis under investigation, hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin are included. The study is led by Senior Consultant, Division of Neurology, Department of Medicine at NUS, Associate Professor Seet Chee Seong Raymond. Now, as we know, COVID-19 is a crushing disease when in escalation. It causes a lower respiratory tract infection, dominated by symptoms of fever, cough, and sore throat. The incubation period was estimated at between 5 to 7 days, but could last as long as 14 days. Most COVID-19 cases are mild. Respiratory involvement has been reported in about 5% of the population, requiring supplementary oxygen and even ventilatory support to relieve hypoxia. Alveolar damage, fibrosis, and consolidation have been reported in radiologic and post-mortem studies. According to the NUS, the COVID-19 death rate is approximately between 1 and 2%, meaning survivability rate is about 98 to 99%. But this rate is higher among people with comorbidities, as well as those in healthcare systems with a lack of sufficient ventilatory support. As the COVID-19 cases grow, an actual count of infected is not yet known. Disturbingly, the patients are known to shed viruses despite mild or no symptoms, making it essential that a collective approach against COVID-19 incorporates active pharmacological treatment to prevent or mitigate virus pathogenesis before possible disease evolution and, hence, cause respiratory distress. Most studies to date have focused on treatment of hospitalized patients, while less have centered on the clinical benefits of pharmacological agents, despite few compelling in vitro data publications. So, migrant workers in Singapore working in closed dormitory environments experience relatively high COVID-19 transmission rates, with a growing concern that an excess of cases can overly burden the healthcare system. The availability of an effective prophylaxis treatment could reduce this burden. And so the study team targets 5,000 participants in this 5-arm study, including hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, zinc, providine iodine, and an active comparator of vitamin C. The study started in May and runs through July 2020. The primary endpoint includes an evaluation of the incidence of acute respiratory illness in treatment arms at the end of day 42. The actual research site is located at the 2S South Dormitory, while the entire study is sponsored by the NUS. And so Trial Site News will monitor this site upon final results. You can sign up for our daily newsletter for updates on this story. And now for our final story of the episode. Sun Pharmaceuticals, an India pharmaceutical company, initiated a Phase 2 clinical trial to investigate ACE-QCH, a phytopharmaceutical plant-derived drug for treatment of COVID-19 cases. 12 research sites in India will evaluate the drug on 210 COVID-19 patients for what will be a treatment duration of 10 days. This is the first time a phytopharmaceutical drug has been approved for a clinical trial by the Drugs Controller General of India, or the DCGI, for COVID-19. So AQHQ is a plant-derived phytopharmaceutical investigational product. The company secured approval by the DCGI in April of this year. Initially in development for the treatment of dengue, the drug evidenced broad antiviral effect in vitro and is now under evaluation. As a potential COVID-19 treatment, Sun has been collaborating with DBT-ICGE and CSIR-IIM since 2016 for the development of a phytopharmaceutical drug for dengue. The results of this trial are expected by October of this year. Human safety study for AQCH has already been completed and the drug has been found safe at the recommended dose for Phase 2 study. The drug has shown anti-SARS-CoV-2 effects in vitro studies conducted in collaboration with the National Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology in Italy. And that wraps up our episode for the Weekly Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Roundup. As always, we appreciate you for being with us today. And we will see you next time.